Hello everyone, welcome. This is February 11th, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and this is level 1. We're just beginning with level 1 right now. So the topic for today is meditation and conquering your mind. I have spoken before about how your mind is a hacked operating system. This means that we are supposed to have an operating system. Just like your computer, your computer has to have an organizing principle that makes it go. So it is appropriate to have a mind, just like it is appropriate to have an ego. Just waiting, hold on one moment. So we are talking about your operating system of your mind is analogous to the operating system of your computer. And it is appropriate to have an ego, like I've spoken about this also. Your ego, and here let me just do a little bit of work with our diagrams in the background. I am circling the level of the solar plexus back there, and now I'm pointing to it with the shadow. I hope that you can see this is the level of the human mind, as opposed to the level of pure insight. That's up here on the brow, and this is wordless understanding. Non-verbalized understanding, the type of insight that happens when you understand something all at once in a non-linear fashion. It's the type of communication that happens when you look at pictures. It's why I make my artwork, because these images bypass the hack in your operating system. And what do I mean when I say that over and over? Hack in this day and age means that a thing has been taken and repurposed into a new format. So hackers take whatever it is, it could be an electronic device, and modify it slightly for their own needs. Well, each one of us was intended to have a mind or an operating system. But hackers, these self-serving, nefarious, lower level consciousnesses, changed your mind so that it is not as it was meant to be. So first of all, your mind was meant to be a perfectly functioning organic computer that is constantly in divine alignment, in tune with the great thinker. And I want to say thinker in the sky, but this is really a hyperspace entity. And when I point to the sun out the window out there, that is our local broadcaster of hyperspace reality. So although the sun is in the sky, the entity or intelligence is all pervasive. And in level 2, I'm going to get more into solar consciousness, stellar consciousness, and the quality of the entities that are at a star level. But so for right now, just keeping it at the basic level, which is that your consciousness was intended to be an unbroken, seamless continuum between you in the mundane corporeal realm, wearing a fleshy body, and your consciousness that is not in this realm, that exists in an abstract place, a non-physical realm. Like if you could imagine information being on a hard drive in a digital format. This is what we're talking about. Intelligence that resides on an abstract level in a higher dimensional realm. Okay. Unfortunately, or fortunately, dependent upon how we describe the events of human history, the human genetic code was diminished, and this degraded the capacity for humans to maintain a perfect contact with higher mind. And your organic computer also does not function properly, even being cut off from the higher mind or the source of information. So, your organic computer was designed to have perfect recall. The idea that you cannot remember everything is almost unimaginable. Like if I put information into my computer or my phone and I went to look for it and it wasn't there, I would say, this computer is broken. There's something wrong with this. But this happens every day with the human mind. People literally do not remember phone numbers or addresses or even where they put their car keys, or sometimes if they have dropped their baby off at daycare or if they have inadvertently left their baby, in a hot car. Memory is a real issue. And the issue of why memories aren't formed effectively is one of inattention. So I've described this as your aperture of attention. You literally reach out and attenuate towards what you're thinking about or wondering about. During the day, because of your hacked operating system, hackers, these lower level service to self entities, are able to reach into your consciousness whenever they want. In exactly the same way that, there are hackers that can take control of your personal computer. And they can ransom your hard drive, or they can sell access to your webcam without your permission. This is pretty big. This is a privacy issue. You are also at the same time experiencing hyperdimensional privacy issues because it is intended for your mind to be sovereign. That means you're supposed to be able to only connect with beings whom you choose to connect with. It's like saying you only allow people who you want to come into your house. You don't just leave your door open for strangers to come in, like an open invitation. World, universe, come on in, trod through my living room. Of course not. You have a door and you close it and you have locks on it and you maintain privacy. And you put down the blinds at night so the neighbors can't see you when you're undressing, and close the door when you use the bathroom. These are all issues of, when I say sovereignty, it is like being treated not like a mere animal or not like a mere object. Every single human on the earth right now who has a human mind has been treated like a subhuman. You have been treated like an object or like an animal, or like the way that humans treat animals. And I'm not speaking about myself. I have a cat. I love her. She sits next to me while I do my work. I give her respect as a sovereign entity of consciousness. I'm talking about people who look at animals as unfeeling objects to be used and abused. I'm sorry to report that if you are a human on Earth right now with a mind, that is the way you have been treated. You have not been treated as a being who has full sovereignty and should be asked permission to enter your mind. Hackers don't ask permission. Hackers don't ask permission when they go inside of your computer and steal your private information. So these lower vibrational entities, and in lesson 18 I give the full description of who and what they are and their origins. And most people are here returning students, so they are familiar with this, but someone might be coming upon this out of context in one of the recordings. So please be aware that there are more descriptions coming about what actually created the circumstances of why your mind is hacked, what the hackers are after, and how to dispose of them. So first, I don't think that anyone has had an experience of what your mind is like without the hack. This is a big thing. It's kind of like if you're always used to having ads and malware inject into your experience of being online. You're used to pop-up ads. You're used to all of these distractions. You think it's just normal. It's not normal. You're not supposed to have all of these intrusive mind hijackings that almost everyone has all day long. So I've definitely felt what it feels like to be hijacked. And also I have mastered my mind. This means that I have taken control of my human operating system. I think my thoughts intentionally, and I do not allow any other thoughts into my mind. This sounds like a very difficult task, and it is. I practice mindfulness 100% of the time. Mindfulness is self-observation and being aware of the thoughts as separate entities from you as the thinker, being aware of the thoughts as they present themselves to be ingested and nourished. So your mind is a system of refinery. Imagine it like, a water wheel, or like an old mill that is spinning. And thoughts are extra-dimensional entities who present themselves to the refinery of your consciousness. And when you think a thought, you are literally adding momentum to that thought. When you think a thought enters into your mind, and you add energy to it by thinking it. And this is also akin to nourishing it. Your mind is similar to a uterus or a womb, a fertile organ that these little seeds of awareness come into, looking for a place to grow. It is your choice about which seeds of consciousness grow within your mind. This is what it means to be sovereign. This is what it means. It's like saying a woman gets to choose who her partners are and what babies she grows in her womb. This seems like de rigueur, a no-brainer, something that is just a matter of course. In your mind, it should be considered a matter of course that you only think the thoughts you wish to think. No other entities interject thoughts against your wishes, that you can turn off thoughts you don't wish to have there, that you can expel unwanted entities. These seem like common sense. However, in your daily day-to-day practice, I bet you will find that you don't get to actually experience that. I bet you will find that you either have intrusive thoughts. It's like neighbors coming into your door that you don't want to come in, or songs stuck in your head, or thoughts of negativity, doubt, insecurity, or basically thoughts that are of a vibration that is of a lower than love quality. These are not loving thoughts, and they are interjected into your mind in order to steal from you. This is why I call it hackers, because hackers they go against boundaries, they go against personal sovereignty, and they use their power to steal private information. What is stolen from you when your mind is hacked is the experience of being in the moment. I established this lesson as saying each one of us was meant to be a conduit for higher consciousness. This is not a role merely for special people, avatars, like Jesus Christ or Krishna or Daganawida or any superstar that we've ever heard of. We are all supposed to be superstars for higher consciousness. It is an artificial situation to be not completely, I'm putting my hand up here, not completely in connection to higher consciousness. So the interjections, the thoughts during the day that distract you, literally steal your attention from higher consciousness. Distracting thoughts are like ads, like pop-up ads that come up on your computer. You're reading an article, something that you're interested in, and all of a sudden, boop, up comes this distracting thing, and then you have to exit out or say no thank you or whatever and get rid of it. This is happening all the time in one's mind, all right? At first, it might be difficult to even see what's going on because it all happens very quickly, and when you have not yet mastered your mind, you're not moving at a fast enough rate to perceive it. So the way that these hackers of the mind operate, they operate through your inattentiveness, basically coming in through your blind spots, places that are holes or gaps or openings of awareness. It's like saying that a burglar doesn't come in the front door when you're standing there. The burglar comes in through the basement door in the middle of the night when it knows that you're asleep. Hackers come into your mind through your inattention. So as soon as you begin to pay attention, their job gets harder. Your job as an owner of an energy system is to claim your energy system. This is what it means to be sovereign. Although you were born sovereign, your sovereignty has been trampled or diminished or taken away. It is not mine to give to you. I do not give you your sovereignty or your freedom. Your freedom and your sovereignty are innate. However, I give you the information that you are free and sovereign, and that is quite empowering. It's like going to court or before you go to court, getting access to all of the statutes and all of the laws so that you can tell what is within your right and what is totally, what's a total crime for someone to perpetrate against you. So I'm now giving you valuable information for the cosmic court that your mind and your energy system is sovereign. You are the owner of it, owner-operator of your sole proprietorship, and no one else is allowed to enter your energy field without your permission or have an impact on it without your permission. So, and this comes down to basic rules of the universe and rules of consciousness. So I've spoken about this. When you are a tiny infant, tiny child, you have needs. You're hungry, thirsty, or have a poopy diaper, and somehow you have to communicate those needs to other people around you. And just crying and screaming has limited effectiveness. We've all learned this because we all learned to talk. Learning speech is an essential survival program. Humans come here, they are born, and they are submerged within this verbalized culture. And the verbalized culture represents the human mind. But I call it the human mind, that's in air quotes. It's human because humans use it, not because it was incepted and created by humans. And the hackers that get in through your inattentiveness are the beings that actually have changed and modified the mind for their own convenience. So your mind is supposed to have an off button or a pause button. I've spoken about that too, like iPods, for your music, for your headphones. They don't have an off button. They just have a pause button. Steve Jobs did that on purpose. He really didn't like the idea of, having an off button. It's the same thing with your mind. Should be able to control when it's on and when it's off. Most people, when they install the operating system of the mind, never get the off button. This is what we learn through the practice of mindfulness and meditation. So let's do a little bit of contrasting. I just said 2 different practices here. Mindfulness would be defined as being present in the moment and paying attention to the sensorium at all times. Meditation, I would define as sitting down in a formalized position or during a formalized portion of the day in order to cultivate nonverbal abstract consciousness. So this is basically, how do you get energetic currency from the universe? At night, when you are unconscious and when you are nonverbal, all of your chakras return to their beautiful resting position. So I'm drawing a little bit now, finally getting to the drawing. When your chakras are in their nice, beautiful resting position, some of them are, spinning perfectly in a horizontal way. Some of them are spinning perfectly in a vertical way. As soon as you wake up and begin to think your thoughts, your first thoughts of the day, your chakras begin to go awry. This is not intentional. I'm just reporting what I perceive. That each one of us, during the night, you reconnect to source. You turn off the verbalized speaking mind. Most people carry a verbalized internal dialogue. If you're not familiar with the works of Carlos Castaneda, I recommend them. Although they're not airtight, they have a lot of great metaphors. And they speak a lot about the internal dialogue and how that is your constant narration to self of who you are, and it upholds your version of reality. It's like saying, the world exists, I'm this person. This is what people are mostly doing all day long in their mind with their verbalized conscious thoughts. The world exists, I'm this person, I was born in, 1977, I have this job, my name is this, I live on this street. people are constantly upholding the story, the narrative structure of who they are, what they're doing. It's kind of like almost like you have to define yourself all 100% of the time. This is the ego literally constantly asserting itself and saying, I exist, I exist, I exist. And one of the great fears of the ego is death, that the ego will simply cease to exist. The ego fears its own lack of existence. That is why it constantly asserts itself through verbalized thought. I said at the beginning of this recording, we do not have to kill the ego. Please do not ascribe to any teachings that are so unloving. That's like saying, I have to chop off my hand. No, don't chop off your hand. Your hand is connected to your whole being. If there's something wrong with your hand, if your hand is uncomfortable or doesn't function properly, fix your hand. Make it comfortable, make it function properly, but do not chop it off. The ego resides at the level of yellow. I'm showing this right back here, the level of the solar plexus. You can't get rid of yellow and still have the rainbow. You need to have conscious thought. I speak a lot about what life was like in Atlantis, or what's known as Atlantis in this time and place. This refers to the ancient antediluvian or pre-flood, sophisticated, worldwide, and galactic culture. And in this ancient culture, not only were people aware of their chakras, people used verbalized language, but very minimally. And that's because people still had access to their higher psychic faculties. So, if you still had access to your higher psychic faculties, it would be much more efficacious to communicate almost all the time with nonverbal psychic communication. So we're going to get into this in advanced class about telepathy and how telepathy functions. But it does not necessarily function like calling someone up on the phone and saying, hi, my name is blah, 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 or if I have to give someone a message like, hi, you have to move your car, or whatever you do, don't drive on that road. Like, if you get a telepathic message, it might be nonverbal. It might contain a flash of imagery. It might contain a concept in totality, as opposed to a concept that is described laboriously with a string of linear, verbalized words. So the way that I make this distinction, if you've ever been in a dream and you simply knew something without articulating it, that is the type of knowing and consciousness that was used all the time in Atlantis. And in telepathic indigenous cultures since that time, because that certainly has occurred. People in the time and place that I'm familiar with, though, here, are mostly not telepathic. And the reason for this is that mostly humans have this hacked operating system. That means there's constant mental chatter. And the constant mental chatter is what makes you not seamlessly connected to the consciousness that is emanating from the source and the consciousness that is emanating from the sun, which would be considered your local broadcaster of information from the source. So why do you not have perfect recall? If I'm speaking to people who don't have perfect recall, and I'm presuming that you don't, the answer is because when you look around and experience life during your day, you have constant mental chatter, and it is afflicting your capacity to focus your attention. I don't know if you've ever had a child or a toddler or been a babysitter or had a cat, but sometimes they're like, I need attention, I need attention, I need attention. And you're just trying to focus and do your work. And they're like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. It means it's very difficult to focus on your work. This is what it is like with the hacked operating system. All day long, there are miracles in the sensorium. Things that you can perceive with your eyes and your ears, and synchronicities that people aren't noticing because of the constant mental chatter. And the constant mental chatter, I hope that you're getting my characterization of it at this point, that it is not innocent. It's not like my cat or a toddler or 2-year-old. That's innocent. That's like saying, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. You know, like everybody wants attention. That's fine. This is not innocent. Pay attention to me. These are consciousness entities who literally steal from you while you are living your life in the body. They do it all the time, especially when you are eating. And I did a lesson, inorganic versus organic beings and the importance of food, all about how vital it is during the process of eating to really focus your attention on the sensation of the food and the sensation of what it feels like to eat it, and how wonderful it is to record a broadcast of eating fried chicken, and then you can have that saved up for the ages, or to be able to be a conduit for other beings who don't have taste buds to taste through you. And I spoke about being a conduit for beings from a far distant galaxy, got to taste a raspberry through my taste buds, and to them that was a magnificent gift, okay? All of that happens when you are able to tame the mind. I said tame. We don't have to get rid of the mind. We don't want to get rid of the operating system. My computer, my MacBook computer, would not function without an operating system. Same thing with your mind. What you want to have is the latest and greatest operating system with all of the appropriate software patches so that hackers can't get into your system anymore. So these software patches are literally downloaded from the sun, and they can be downloaded during meditation. I prefer to physically be in the presence of the sun, like at the window with the sunlight actually coming into my mind. But I will tell you, you do not have to be that literal. I have someone that's in India that I'm in contact with, and they described their practice to me, and they don't have to be in the presence of the physical sun in order to draw energy in through their crown chakra. And so it's like I'm an artist. When I paint, I like to paint in a really sunny studio with lots of bright light on my canvas so I can really see what I'm doing. But not everybody is the same way. Some people paint in the middle of the night, you know? Some people have a dark little studio that's filled up with all sorts of, like it's like a little cubby hole and you can barely even see their workspace. Everybody is different. But I will tell you that I prefer to be in direct connection to the sun, and that is how I get my patches or software downloads for basically the genetic code that needs to be upgraded in light of these beings that would like to feed on you. So I've done a lot of backstory in this half hour. I'm going to pause this recording and then get going on the second half hour of level 1, where I will get into actual techniques for meditation. This is the backstory. Why do we need to meditate? Because literally the constant mental chatter is reducing your vibration, your capacity to be an antenna for consciousness that does not reside in the physical, denser realms. You are an antenna or an apparatus. You're a sensory apparatus. And when you're constantly thinking and chatting and saying things in your mind, it makes it very difficult for the higher entity to perceive through you as an apparatus. What mostly has happened throughout human history is when you are born and you develop this thinking, speaking mind, you're just cut off from higher consciousness until you die. And then when you die, you turn in your hard drive. You give all your memories to the sun or solar consciousness. And that is not the best way to work. It is so much better to work in real time. It is so much better to be able to give immediate feedback to the sun on your experience of being here on the physical planet using the sun's resources. If I haven't made it abundantly clear, everything that you have comes from your nearest star. You are stellar. Even the planet and planetary resources are an outgrowth of the sun. I'm not, it sounds like I'm giving favorites, you know, like the sun is the best, the sun is the best. Not at all, not at all. It is like saying the sun is the origin. The sun is where this energy comes from. And it's also the destination. It is where your consciousness energy will be returning to. And it's kind of like saying, you know, when you're a guest, you take good care of the house that you're living in, or you know, if you're staying over in someone's place, you take good care of your environment. You have been given this body and this consciousness mind in trust. You hold it in trust for solar consciousness. Let me get back to the recording. Everything that you have, you are holding in trust for solar consciousness, or I'm calling it solar consciousness because the name of our nearest star is Sol, S-O-L, and so we associate everything with the star as being solar. It is also stellar, okay? So this is like saying there is a stellar consciousness that would like to be co-experiencing your life alongside you in real time. Your stellar consciousness partner would like to know what it's like to sit in a chair. Can you feel your pelvis sitting in the chair or your feet on the floor? Guess what? A sun doesn't have a pelvis. A star doesn't have feet. It doesn't have a chair. It doesn't know what it feels like to sit in a chair. Just transmitting the experience of sitting in a chair is valuable and informative to a stellar consciousness. I hope that I am characterizing your individual experience in the sensorium as valuable and necessary. First of all, a lot of people take for granted their experience of the sensorium and cannot imagine that it could be valued by a non-corporeal entity. Like, yes, even being here in an earthly body, even if you're having whatever, a nosebleed or an earache, it's still a valuable experience. But mostly when you're in the physical body and cut off from the source, most people are just living in a subsistence mode where it's not fun and enjoyable, it's just barely getting by, which is why people don't necessarily value the experiences of being here. It is one of the things that you have to give back to stellar consciousness. It's like saying, thank you for giving me these resources and raw materials. This is what I'm feeling over here. This is what I'm experiencing, utilizing all of these resources and raw materials. And it gets better than that, because once you begin giving real-time feedback to the sun can twist and turn the dials, I want to say adjust the knobs of your life. It's a feedback loop. So let's say, you know, you're like an animal and you are on the hunt, you're hungry, and you are able to send back information to the sun and say, I am hunting and I am hungry. And the sun is able to say, well, that is one of my emanations down there, and I need to make sure that that, you know, lion or tiger gets some food. So let's tell that lion that it needs to go find a gazelle over in that field over there and eat it. Like, it is pro-survival to connect with stellar consciousness, because stellar consciousness wants to sustain you. In this modern age, a good experience would be something like, if you needed financial resources, because most people aren't hunter-gatherers and most people use money in a finance system, if you shared that information with the sun in real time, the sun's consciousness would then be able to program into reality a job or a money-earning experience where you would get all of the resources that you desired and required. So this is your own personal experience of being given, quote-unquote, a gazelle to eat because you need to hunt. And it gets even more than that, because we are all carriers of information and conduits for higher consciousness, and we're supposed to be actors on the stage for this higher consciousness. So not just me, everyone that's here is meant to be a conscious and aware actor on the stage for otherworldly beings. This is what it was like in Atlantis, when there were beings that had never had corporeal existence, but they lived through a corporeal speaker in order to speak through physical vocal cords, and it was a type of partnership. I hope that we're beginning to understand here that because of the human mind that was programmed into everyone here, whether you wanted it or not, it has literally enslaved you. It has literally made it not possible for you to access your higher psychic faculties, be telepathic, and be consciously connected to the source of higher consciousness. Now let's get into techniques for meditation, because we don't want to live like that. We don't want to live disconnected from our birthright and from higher consciousness and not being able to tell the sun or the stars what is going on a moment-to-moment basis in our daily existence. That would be like if the nerve endings in my feet never got to send a signal to my brain during my whole life. My brain would never be able to tell what my feet are sensing until at the end of my life I'd get the readout, the transcript, and be like, okay, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, ouch, I stepped on a thorn and I stepped on a nail. None of that helps after the fact. You are the sensory apparatus for a living being, just like your nerves are the sensory apparatus for a living being, and the living being wants real-time information about the experience. So, when we meditate, we begin to carve away a little bit of breathing space in our consciousness so that we can begin to be mindful. Begin by setting aside some amount of time every day, apart from your regular activities, to sit in a meditative state and cultivate energy. Energy that you're cultivating is literally like currency of the universe. Currency is money, like moolah that you can spend. Currency is also electrical currency. The flow of electrons denotes the flow of time. I have previously described you, me, and other organic life forms as being submerged within the flow of time. And this is part of what we are earning by being here in the flow of time, is this conscious awareness. One moment. When you are submerged in the flow of time and you are completely coherently focused on the now, that is how you save resources. That is how you conserve energy. That's the best way of putting it. Conserving energy. Like coasting on a bicycle, or not treading water, but floating in the water. A way of existing that conserves energy. Verbalized conscious thought takes a lot of energy. Speaking takes a lot of energy. I'm sure that you have had this experience, that if you've ever had long conversations, afterwards you feel like, whew, like I'm tired, like I'm drained. Definitely after 2 hours of giving a class, speaking for 2 hours, straight, I definitely feel tired and like I need food. Speaking takes energy. When we sit in meditation, we are conserving our energy. This is the first action on your bid for freedom. You are sovereign. You deserve to be sovereign. But you have slave masters that have enslaved your mind and your system of perception and prevented you from reaching your true mental heights. If you reached your true mental heights and activated your pineal gland, you wouldn't be sitting around all day wondering, how am I going to pay the bills? Like, where can I get 2 nickels to rub together? Those concerns become secondary, and you become more interested in empowerment of your consciousness and how you can be a conscious co-creator of reality. So this is very big. It is big for you as an individual, and it is very threatening to the status quo. First of all, you're like a meal, like a caged animal that is going to be, you're going to be slaughtered and eaten, and you're trying to get out of your cage. The farmer that's been holding you there to eat you doesn't want to let you go. Be prepared for this, but not in a bad way. Don't be like, oh no, I'm afraid that, evil entities are going to be. No, because the worst has already happened. You have nothing to fear. Literally, the worst has already happened. As you were born into this realm, your consciousness was already enslaved. You are or have not been free up until this point. And now you get to be free. So now you get to kick out your abusive partner, or leave your bad family, or imagine like an elephant that's being held in some stupid circus and forced to do tricks. And the elephant is enormously more powerful than the little tiny chain that has been preventing it from finding its true potential. That elephant needs to break free and just claim its true freedom, claim its true power. This is you. You are like that elephant. You've been held in chains and kept from your true potential, your capacity to manifest. That's what I'm talking about. Your capacity to imagine and create with your mind has been diminished and hijacked because of the constant verbalization and hacked operating system. So the first thing is taking time to sit. Part of the recording, there's a half hour of Educreation's lesson. There's also a half hour of recorded meditation. And the meditation is not very impressive. It is simply me telling you to sit in a comfortable position, wearing comfortable clothing for 20 minutes, and don't talk inside of your mind. Just allow your mind to exist. If thoughts arise, allow them to exist, note that they are there, but don't give them energy. It's like saying, don't think those thoughts. I described your mind as a refinery of energy, like a wheel or a gear that is turning. If a thought comes into your mind, you don't have to turn it around in that gear and go over it over and over and over. You can just watch that thought as it comes into your mind and exits your mind. Another analogy is you don't have to breathe energy into that thought, or you don't have to feed that thought with energy. You feed a thought with energy when you reply to it. If a thought comes into your mind that is like, an intrusive thought or something that is very unkind, let's use as the example, that lady has a giant fat ass. And so this thought comes into your mind, and you can be shocked by it because you're like, I don't think things like that. And so you want to say, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. I don't say things like that. I don't think things like that. Don't. Don't feed into it. Don't go against it. Don't struggle with it. This is like Aikido. All of these martial arts of the Far East, they are not about physically fighting with fists, other partners in the physical realm. They are about non-physically fighting the non-physical adversaries that have kept humanity enslaved. Aikido is about not struggling with your adversary, actually allowing the momentum of your adversary to just carry them right past you. So real Aikido masters, someone is running at them and trying to attack them or kick them or punch them. Real masters, it is effortless. They simply turn aside and the person kind of goes right past them. Sometimes they might just kind of flip them a little bit to kind of just flop them away. This is what you can be in your mind. This is what I wish for everyone to be in their mind. Be like one of these little Far Eastern Aikido masters. Thoughts will come to you like the way, these masters, they sit there and they can be old and skinny and have, like very little muscle mass. Their young students are running at them, big muscle type people. And these masters just, and it is because, first of all, these masters have cultivated their energy centers to be spinning at a very high rate. This gyro stabilizes them on a non-physical level. They literally have more energy and momentum than their muscle-bound students, and also they use their students' energy to make them just go right on by. This is what I want you to do in meditation. Meditation is cultivating energy. That means you don't want to have to use up a lot of energy. If a thought comes at you, you don't want to have to say, I don't like you. I disagree with you. Get away from me. Get out of my head. That's like fighting against it. You don't want to have to put on the boxing gloves and fight against it. You want that thought to get right out of there. So when you sit in meditation, when a thought presents itself, do not fight against it. Allow the energy of the thought itself to carry it away. And what happens, the more that you do this, let's say you do this 20 minutes a day every day, eventually you will find that there is a little bit of distance between the speaking, verbalized mind and you as the conscious observer. As you meditate more and cultivate more energy, every day that you do this, the space will get bigger. The space between these thoughts that are verbalized thoughts and you, the person who is watching the thoughts. I have meditated for so much that I now have a lot of room for observation. I am here moving at a very fast rate, and I see these thoughts coming at me, and it's like they're arriving in slow motion. I'm like, oh, look, there's a thought about negativity or self-doubt or me being not good enough. And it's like being able to watch your enemy trying to punch you in the face. Like, look at that. A fist is coming right at my face. So what I usually do is duck aside and let that fist go right on by. This gets easier the more you do it. And eventually you will become a master. A master is like one of these Far Eastern Aikido masters that no one can lay a finger on that person if they don't want them to. Those masters have cultivated their energy to the point where they are in charge, they are in control. This is what I have done with my mind. It is appropriate for me to describe myself as a master of my own mind. This is not self-aggrandizement. It is like a person saying, I'm a black belt. I have studied for this many years and I have achieved these different recitals or presentations, and I have been given this stature. I have kicked out so many demons and mental parasites. I have cleansed my mental structure so that now, instead of being having constant adversarial conflicts and stumbling blocks in my mind, I have very few. And when they come up, I allow those adversaries to just go right on by. Or if they're fists that are coming at my face, I duck out of the way and allow them to go right on by. But really, as a master, and I'll tell you what happens. So you have all of your energy, basically. You wake up in the morning, and instead of your chakras starting out in perfect alignment, and then as soon as you think your first thought, they start to go out of alignment, instead of that, your chakras stay in alignment. And it means that you have more energetic currency at your disposal. So instead of, let's say in the analogy, each person is given $100 of currency every day. Every morning you wake up, here's $100 worth of currency. Most people spend 99 of those dollars like as soon as they open their eyes. And then they just have $1 to spend for the whole rest of the day. Because I have mastered my mind, when I wake up in the morning, I've got $100. And I don't have these negative thoughts siphoning off my energy. It means that I can choose how I spend my energetic currency. So I spend it in a variety of ways. I use my energetic currency to attenuate and reach out to what I wish to learn about. I reach out to the sun in order to ingest sunlight. I reach out to plants and the natural world in order to trees, in order to learn about what is happening in the organic biological world. I reach out to the stars and to hyperspace consciousnesses in order to get ideas for recorded videos and music ideas and artwork ideas. I mean, it's kind of like saying you don't have to live like a mental pauper anymore, because the negative and intrusive thoughts that have been stealing away your energy aren't stealing it away anymore. And all of a sudden, you can use that energy to activate your third eye and explore your higher faculties. Now you understand why the constant chattering, uncontrolled mind has been installed in your mind and why it's been used as a tool for individual social control to keep you away from your higher faculties. And you will find as you begin to meditate more and accumulate more energy that your mind moves faster and you process information faster. So my mind and my capacity to process information are faster than most other people. And this is because my chakras are spinning at a faster rate. There's a couple of things here. This allows me also to perceive beings that are moving at a faster rate, like non-corporeal beings. I've spoken about this many times in the past. This is flesh. Flesh is light that has the privilege of going slower than the speed of light. There are beings that are moving a little bit faster than you and I. They might not be moving at the speed of light yet. They're just a little bit faster than you and I. When you begin to accumulate inner silence by meditating, you increase your own vibration. You are literally moving at a faster rate. Hey, have I told you guys about the zoetrope and persistence of memory? Persistence of vision. This is the idea that a long time ago, the way they made simple animations was by making a cylinder that was like a drum that had slits in the side. And when you spin it, the slits flicker. And if you draw a simple frame by frame animation, it could be anything. It could be a dot up here and then the dot goes down here and then it goes up here and goes up here again. Or there's a pretty famous one of a horse. This is like from 500 or 600 years ago. Or if you've ever made a little flip book where you draw pictures in the margin of a book and then you flip the pages very quickly. This works on the phenomenon that is in your eye and in your system of perception, where you're actually perceiving still shots, snapshots of reality. And it is your system of perception that is tying these still shots of reality together into the simulacrum of seamless continuum and movement. And this is called persistence of vision. It's a phenomenon of perception. But I bring this up now because it has to do with your chakras on your body are spinning just like that zoetrope, just like that cylinder that has vertical slits cut in it and is spinning. So too are your chakras spinning. And when they are spinning, they are creating that flickering motion that determines which level of reality you are looking at. If they're spinning kind of slow, you're looking at one version of reality. When they start spinning faster, you begin to perceive a different version of reality. You have literally raised your vibration. You are now perceiving reality differently. This is what happens when you begin to meditate. You begin to accumulate all of your divine energy, as opposed to fritter it away or have it be siphoned off through verbalized conscious thought. Not only will you get greater vitality in your physical body, your mentality and your perception will begin to change. So in terms of meditation techniques, in the recorded meditation, pretty much the way that I sit in meditation, I do sit with my legs crossed, quote unquote, Indian style, but I sit with my back against pillows. Sit in a way that is comfortable and sustainable. You know something? I've never been able to achieve the lotus position. I do not know if this physical corporeal form could do that, and it doesn't matter. If you're able to sit in lotus position, that's wonderful. If you cannot sit comfortably with your legs, like Indian style, please sit comfortably. Sit in a chair, sit with your feet on the floor. The key is, first of all, there's no right and there's no wrong, and second of all, that you are meant to be comfortable. You're not supposed to be thinking about your body. You're not supposed to be focusing on your physical discomforts. You're supposed to be thinking about your mind. Same thing with your clothing. Whatever, take off your bra or unbutton your pants. You don't want to have to be thinking about all of the uncomfortable things that are on your body, so that you can focus on the discomforts of your mind and heal those. Meditation is literally self-healing. Meditation is healing your mind. And mental perturbations, these perturbations of your mind, are where disease comes from. Before the installation of the hacked operating system, pre-Atlantis, before the fall, there was not disease as we currently understand it. And a great deal of the disease that we have comes from a degradation of the genetic code of humans and leading to humans never getting mental rest. It's so exhausting to constantly have mental chatter and constantly have to verbalize thoughts, that this takes away from your vitality, takes away from your energetic reserves, and makes it so that you age prematurely and die. I'm also getting into mindfulness, okay? So I've spoken about how meditation is sitting formally during a certain period of the day, and you gradually, little by little, you're increasing your energetic currency. Now you might have $1 million in the bank, $1 million in the energy bank, so that you have a great deal of perspective between you as consciousness and observer, and the mind as the talker, the one who's constantly talking and chatting. At a certain point, you might even disassociate from the mind, because you're like, I'm not even saying that, and it's being said. You'll notice it's like having a recording going. It's like blah 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 blah, and it's like, that I didn't even say that. That's not me. We will get into in lesson 18 about conquering these negative thought entities. Really, how do you get rid of those? And we also get into this in programming your Merkaba. So there are energetic techniques that are kind of like Windex or cleanser that you can use to clean up. But the first thing is just creating a buffer zone so you can observe. And then the second part is mindfulness throughout your day. So even if you are not able to sit down for 20 minutes and press pause on your life and get into a meditative state, you can be mindful, meaning that you are watching and observing yourself all the time. And this is a very, very positive and conducive to creativity form of meditation. For example, if you always have to turn off your thoughts in meditation, like a thought begins and you have to say, stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking. First of all, that takes energy, and second of all, tends to reduce creativity. But simply being mindful. This means that you can do it while you're walking or running or riding a bicycle. And cardiovascular exercise is actually a very good opportunity. The repetitive nature of it and the fact that it releases endorphins can help you to get into these mindful states, all right? I practice mindfulness as much as I possibly can when I'm making my artwork, when I'm practicing music, when I'm performing basic daily chores, doing the dishes. And mindfulness is described as focus, being attuned, self-watching, and self-observation. And all of these have to do with being a good conduit, a clear container, or a clear telescope that higher consciousness can use to tune in through you. Pausing the background recording, there we go. And I'm going to save this. This is class 1B. And if you have questions or comments about the level 1 stuff, now is a great time for that. In fact, let me unmute anyone who might have anything to say. Where's the audio? Where's the thing? Here we go. All right. Any questions or comments? Because I always want to give you that opportunity.